Olympian Carrie Tellefson, and welcome to the C Tolle Run podcast. Today, we welcome back to the show three-time Olympian and Olympic bronze medalist and now author Shannon Rowbury. But she's not alone. She brought her co-author, Jessica Dorrington, who's a physical therapist and pelvic health expert, on the show with her today. We're going to hear all about how these two teamed up, their backgrounds, motherhood, the motherhood movement called Run for Two that they started, their new book, and so much more. So let's get after it. All right, ladies. Oh my gosh. Before we even hit record, we have been having fun. So this is going to be a good time. I mean, we've already been through, having babies, HRT, all of the things, but I just first and foremost want to just say congratulations to you two. The book is coming. It is coming out. You have to be so excited.
Thank you.
Yes.
We are. It's been a long time in the waiting. It's been our labor of love, we call it. Almost 9 years from when we started this venture to when it's coming out. So,
oh my goodness, 9 years. I mean, that is like a career in itself. So I want to get into all of it. But before we do that, I just want my audience to get to know you. Shannon, you've been on C Tolle Run, and in the running world, a lot of people know you. Jess, a lot of people know you too out in Portland. You work with a lot of the athletes, but I would like my audience just to be refreshed. So let's just start with you, Shannon. Talk a little bit about who you are, but not only just as an athlete, like where you are now in your life.
Cool.
Like, I want to always know, where do people go from this awesome sport? And so give us a little insight on what Shannon Rowbury is doing right now.
Perfect. Thanks, Carrie. It's fun to be back with you here. Shannon Rowbury. I am in San Francisco, which is where I was born and raised. And for those of you who don't know me, I spent about 15 years in running track and field professionally. My main event was the 1,500 meters, which is the mile, essentially. And was in 3 Olympics: Beijing, London, and Rio. Last year, finally got news, I guess June, got news that I am officially a bronze medalist from London, which is a story we covered in our previous podcast, Carrie. And the life after competition, I stopped competing in 2021. I'm a mom of 2. And I met Jess when I was pregnant with my daughter, Sienna, who was my first child, back in 2017. And well, we're going to get into part of what life after running has been, but I would say when we talk about our book, but I would say the undercurrent of my career, even when I was competing, was really trying to see if I could take my experience as an athlete and use it to kind of continue to evolve the sport. In 2018, I created with Rose Monday and the USATF committee the first ever maternity policy for a U.S. sports national governing body. And this book, Strong as a Mother, is a really kind of, passion project to recognize opportunities to improve our sport or to add value to our sport, tell the stories in our sport that haven't been told yet, and serve our fellow moms in particular.
I love that. The work that you do behind the scenes, right? I mean, that is so important, and what you've done with USATF and for all the women that are in the situation that we were in at one point. So awesome. Thanks, Shannon. Jess, tell us about you, because I mean, in the open, everyone heard some of your accolades and things, but I want to hear it from you, because I probably am missing out on a lot of really cool things, and you too are very fast.
Well, first of all, I'm a mother of 2 boys. Primary and first is just near and dear family. And I've been a physical therapist for over 2 decades. I work for Therapeutic Associates, which is a Pacific Northwest company. I'm a partner and shareholder there, still treating patients, and run 2 practices. And my passion is running. It's all things running. And I love orthopedics and I love sports, but I also love talking about maternity and pelvic health and how we can combine those two. And those two were really separate in my world. In physical therapy, you could go to pelvic health PT or you could go to a sports therapist, but you couldn't really get both of those. And so my passion was really ignited of how do we help people understand what their core is, understand how the core transfers load and makes us faster, makes us more powerful, and also obviously encompasses all things about pregnancy and postpartum. So Shannon and I, like she said, we met in 2017. I had started working with quite a few Olympic and pro athletes around 2015 using an ultrasound where we could see people's core and really understand how the muscles were working. And, from that, it just grew because all athletes understood how important the core was. And so on our weekends and evenings, Shannon and I would put our heart to this book, and lo and behold, here it is. And yeah, and then I think, just working with so many pros, my journey of running really came back around. Everybody would come in and be like, "What are you doing these days? What are you running?" And so I really, wanted to see, can I become faster as a master? Can I take all the things that I preach every day and actually do
Mhm.
plyometrics and strength training? And how fast can I get? And I've been faster as a master in almost every event. So
That's
all
your
things right.
next book, Faster as a Master. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can all get behind that one too.
Absolutely. And a lot of the principles are the same, because it
Mm.
does carry along each part of our chapters. So
So I want to hear a little bit about this ultrasound because, okay, so I don't know if you know this, but I did the splits over a snowdrift the year I ran in the Olympics. Like I had torn my abs off off my bone, my pubic
right.
bone. I like shredded my adductors. I
Mm.
had 2 stress fractures at the Olympic Games on my pubic bone. I had osteitis pubis. I had everything wrong, and I kinda go into that because you obviously, Jess, know all about that, but, I
Mhm.
had some pretty uncomfortable therapy, and I don't remember having an ultrasound of my core, which was completely shredded. So tell me
Yeah.
what kind of ultrasound that is?
Yeah, we can use the ultrasound to see the muscles and see how they activate. And you have two
So it's
different
like
kinds.
it's external?
External on your belly, just on the side of your abdomen, so nothing
Okay.
invasive. You can
Mm,
also see the pelvic floor muscles through the bladder, which is also just an abdominal ultrasound. But you can see the muscles that are both the local muscles, which are used for stability, which is transverse abdominis, and the pelvic floor is part of that. And then you can
hmm.
see the bigger muscles, like the ones everybody knows how to train, the obliques and the six pack abs or the rectus abdominis. And you see how are those muscles working together and can really design exercises based off it. So it's
Oh,
been up
that's
and
so
coming. I got an
interesting.
ultrasound 10 years ago, and it's starting to become more common out in our profession, and more people are getting trained, which is great.
That is really cool, a little bit more in depth. Okay, so I wanna know who was the first person to say, "Let's write a book."
I'm gonna say it was definitely Shannon. Shannon, you were always like, "Why don't we write a book on this?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't have time to write a book. Like, how are we going to do that? We have kids, day
Mhm.
jobs." And so I think Shannon was the biggest inspiration. And we set it aside a couple times, and Shannon just kept texting me and saying, "Oh, I think it's time. We still have to work on this. I haven't taken it off my radar." And I'd see the same thing. I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it when it's the right timing for both of us." So we waited for her to do all big things still in the sport, have her
Yeah.
second kid, and then finally we said, okay, now we've got to commit. Let's really focus on this and really pursue to get this across the finish line.
So 2017, setting the stage, I had been in 3 Olympics at that point. I was training at the Nike World Headquarters. I got pregnant, um, and was trying to figure out what I could do to support my body in a way that was, medically informed and safe in pregnancy. I knew I didn't want it trained intensely during pregnancy, but I also knew that I needed movement for both my mental and physical health. And so I was at the
Mm.
Nike World Headquarters trying to figure out what to do and couldn't find any easily accessible information. And I just remember thinking,
Hmm.
if it's this hard for me, how impossible must it feel to other moms who don't have that same, network? Um, Fortunately, I was introduced to Jess, who happened to be in Portland. She then kind of became my main person throughout pregnancy to kind of to guide me through. And and it was those conversations about, our moms deserve better. Like, and maybe we can be the ones to make it for them, to create it for them. And I think 2017, 2018, we would have been way ahead of our time. Now it's exciting to see this surge of information around women's health, this investment in women's health and understanding about the pelvic floor and its importance. But part of the 9-year process to get this book made also was because, we reached out to so many agents and kept being told that there wasn't a market for this. We kept reaching out to publishers and kept being told there was no interest. And yet, Jess in her practice and myself, lived and out in the world, would have these conversations with moms who were like, yes, I need this. Why doesn't this exist? And so that really like kept us committed to it through all those highs and lows, and through the moments where it got sort of sidelined. But we were at the point where we were willing to figure out how to self-publish this book if we had to. And then fortunately we found an agent and a publisher, Sasquatch Books, that believed in the project as much as we did. And it really took us finding an acquiring editor who was a collegiate athlete herself, also a mom who was the person we were making this book for, and understood that there were so many more moms that deserved better.
I mean, this is like, obviously you guys would have figured out a way. Like, that's just how it is. It shouldn't be that way, but it is, isn't it?
Right.
Like, how many times do you have to hear no before you're finally like, okay, screw it. I'm just going to get this thing
Yeah,
done.
totally. Like, we have a whole Canva, like, all the book was basically developed in Canva, and we were ready to, like, just say, "Okay, enough of this outreach, like, let's just do it ourselves," when we finally, found a team that would get behind it. And so I think we have just this, like, but along the way, it never changed. The need that has only grown as the awareness of this as a tool
Yeah.
has grown. And so,
Mhm.
as much as it was a long wait, we're so excited to be able to kind of add this tool for moms at this time when there just really seems to be an interest in it. And so that's
Yeah.
exciting.
So
And
Shannon,
again,
when you were pregnant though, were you working with Jess on baby number 1?
Yes, so I worked with Jess starting in baby number 1. That was an intro. My coach Pete Julian, and the Dave McHenry, who was our PT and weight coach for the Oregon Project when I was a part of that. His clinic was part of Therapeutic Associates, and so he knew of Jess and recommended me to
Okay.
her. And then fortunately, they knew what they didn't know, and they were willing to allow me to really just fully work with Jess and trust her guidance in the process, in the pregnancy journey.
Wow. That's really cool. When I was pregnant, I had just signed on with a new agility
Mm,
coach because it was after the fact that I had major surgery in 2007 to repair all of that
oy.
stuff that happened during the fall. And I felt like I wasn't an athlete anymore. I just felt like I could run circles, but not even as powerful as I used to. So I signed up to be with an agility coach who's amazing, but his main client is the NFL combine, the athletes trying to make the NFL. And so I came into him, and no joke, 3 weeks after I signed with him, or signed up to, have him coach me, I'm like, Bill, I'm pregnant. And he was like, I think he actually swore. He was like, oh, and not that he was so excited for me. He had 3 girls
Right.
of his own, but it was like, oh, great. Now what am I going to do with this? Like,
What do I
Olympian who
do? There's
wants
no
to get it
research
back
on
to
what you
where
do. That's part of the problem.
right.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
and
that's
there's
getting better, but
resources, and there's no resources, all the books that are out there, we always say and kind of joke, but we're like, they're telling you the size of how big baby is, and they're telling you babies, eyelids are forming. But you're like, what about me? What about what
Yeah.
I can be doing? And what are the parameters that we could do to be healthy during this time frame?
Yeah. So when you guys go back and like look at the book though, I mean, what do you think is the most important thing for us as females to know a lot of us, especially, well, I shouldn't even say us pros. Any female is kind of looking at the timeline, right? Whether the pregnancy happens when you plan it or if it's sort of unplanned, right? I mean, they always say timing is never right. Um, but I mean, what do you think when you guys go back and look at all this research? What would you tell someone that is either thinking of having a baby in the middle of it? Like, do you still think like an athlete? Do you think like a mom first? Like, how do you go? I thought of as myself as an athlete first, and that the baby would be fine because that's all I knew is, you can't do anything wrong until something wrong happens and all this stuff. So there was like all kinds of question marks, but at the same time, I still wanted to be an Olympic athlete while I was pregnant. So when you guys go back, what do you think is the biggest message you want to get across?
I would say, from the medical standpoint, we know how important exercise is. And there's
Yeah.
all these programs out on the internet that are how to bounce back from baby, get your body back, and everything's about the postpartum period. But we know it's actually what you're doing during pregnancy that's more important. That's what
Yeah.
keeps your abs stronger. That's what helps you get back to your activities. You're actually twice as likely to get back to the things we love doing, like running, if we're exercising during pregnancy. And
Yeah.
so I would say number one, exercise is super important. And number two, I think Shannon, you said this when you were pregnant so well, but most people settle in the middle. We don't want to sit on the couch and do nothing. And we also don't want to continue to be running 120 miles a week or whatever, crazy training programs that people are following. We do want to settle in the middle and know that exercise at a reduced volume, reduced intensity is what's most beneficial for baby and for mom.
Yeah, and I guess every person is different. That's still kind of the thing that they always say. So obviously it'd be great to have a Jess in our corner all the time, like
Mhm.
monitoring us. But I mean, I was pulling sleds for a while, like not super, super heavy, but I was able to still be
Mhm.
me. And I really appreciated that Bill did the research that he tried, that he could find, and he read the research he could find. He did say to me though, and I don't know, I was excited to hear what you had to say about this, Jess, but it was a month out from the pregnancy, and I was no longer allowed to do a squat. I couldn't do a forward lunge, a backwards lunge, or a squat because he was deathly afraid that my water would break. And he's like, "I don't even know if it's a thing, but I'm not letting you do it." Would
That
you agree
I
or
don't
disagree?
back that up. And squatting is a position that we use for birthing. So I would say you could still squat.
Okay. I mean, now all these years later, he'd probably be like, "I don't know why I made you stop doing your lunges and squats," but he was so cute. He's like, "You're not having this baby in here."
I love it.
I do too. So tell me a little bit about the 4-2 movement because that is all, I mean, under the umbrella, right? Like the book comes after that. So let's talk about the 4-2 movement.
I can start, I think we really wanted to think about being active in pregnancy as not something that was like not just for baby, not just for mom, but um, playing on this idea of I'm eating for two. Well, what if you're moving for two? What if you're really thinking about the choices that you make in terms of mother and baby? You know, I
Mm.
felt frustrated that as just referenced, every app talked about the size of my baby, whether it was a pear or a watermelon or whatever fruit it was. But I had such little information about what was taking place in my body, how it was changing. And that was super
Mm.
disorienting for me as an athlete who had built my career off of, like deeply understanding my body and its movements and, how I could support it through my training. Um, and so in creating our book, Strong as a Mother, we made it this combination of information. So really helping moms understand the 4 trimesters of pregnancy, the 3 traditional ones of pregnancy itself, um, as well as the 4th trimester postpartum. We have information about how your body is changing, but also exercises designed to support you posturally through those changes. And we also have this incredible birthing preference plan that's really a feature of Jess's practice and something that she's kind of led the way on in her space, providing mothers both an understanding of what will be taking place in the delivery process, everything from interventions you might want to consider in advance to positions that will be best suited towards your body and delivering, ways that your partner can support you in that process. Um, we wanted moms to walk away from our book or from this community that we're building with this understanding of what tools they had available so that they could ultimately make a choice that was best for them, and advocate for themselves, whether it be, with the
Hmm.
nervous Nelly mother-in-law who thinks that, the mom should just be sitting on the couch, or, in the doctor's office, or anywhere in between.
But after this, we are gonna talk about some of the funny things because it's kinda like, generational, right? Like, I'm sure our moms had all sorts of things, like, the men weren't allowed in the bait or the birthing room. My dad was out eating a steak dinner because that's what they did. They brought the guy a steak dinner while my mom was having me. So, like, okay, I don't want you to lose your thought, Jess, but we're coming back to those funny things that have changed over the years, and a lot to do with what Shannon talked about, how we can, go through the birthing process maybe in a different way. So, tell me, Jess, what were you thinking?
Yeah, well, just the book and for too, medically, people come to PT when there's a problem or an issue, right? I'm having low
Yes.
back pain when I'm pregnant. And we only get maybe 4, maybe 6 sessions from insurance companies to say, this is what's going to do to fix your problem. And we never have any time to give them all the tools and all the information. So
Mm.
medically, this was like being able to give them everything that it would take us 30 PT sessions to do, which isn't feasible, and
Yes.
really give them the knowledge of what birth looks like, what, exercise can look like both pre and post. I have so many patients that, insurance will deny them after 4 to 5 sessions. And I had one the other day, she was biking, and I actually wrote she was biking postpartum, and they said, well, she doesn't need PT anymore. I'm like, she normally runs 60 miles a week. Like, we haven't even had her foot hit the ground. So this is a way for us to really give people access to knowledge. And I think our publisher got tired of me saying, well, consult a physio in the book. They're like, you don't always have to say consult a physio, but we wanted people to be able to advocate for themselves and go, oh, I read in this book that if I have X, Y, and Z, that might mean I need to see a pelvic physio and talk to them about what my condition is, because only 38% of women will talk about their pelvic floor issues with a healthcare provider. So we're really
Really?
trying to move, yeah, and that number, I actually had to research all the stats when we were rewriting the book. I used to say 25% for years and years, and so we've moved the dial on it a little bit, but we really want women to feel empowered and have the basic education so that they can seek out and go to their doctor and say, hey, there's something to be done about this. You don't have to be
Yeah.
leaking if you're doing box jumps. You don't have to be leaking if you're doing double unders. Like, we can still do our heavy sled movements and all the things we want to do, but the leakage doesn't have to be a component of that.
Mm. I love that we can all speak a little bit more about how our bodies work. I mean, I just think we're in a good spot, and you guys are ahead of the curve, right? Like, you are writing about it. You're willing to talk about it, share your own story, share hopefully other people that are willing to talk about it, their stories. And I mean, I too was the one that was trying to get back into doing different movements or coaching different people and having to do jumping jacks by doing taps, not doing jumps. Like, all of those things, right? I mean, I know nobody wants to pee their pants every time they do a jumping jack. I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily do jumping jacks, but even if you wanted to, like, that's the thing. So, tell me what really though, Jess, this is the big thing, and we'll get back to the silly stuff after a while. But tell me what you think is the biggest change in women's health and pregnancy? Like, what are we doing differently? Because, I mean, remember back when we weren't supposed to get our heart rates up past 140 or whatever the number was? Like, we weren't supposed to lift. We weren't supposed to lie on our backs at all. Like, all of those things, I'm sure we want to be careful, but what's the biggest thing that's changed throughout pregnancy that you've seen in the medical world?
Well, I would say awareness. It's really exciting to see that people are aware that we can do more things now during
Good.
pregnancy. And I think the biggest change that has come is we now say you can either start a new exercise program, even if you've never been exercising and now are pregnant. Before, that used to be,
Mm,
oh, only if you've been doing it prior. But now we know exercise is so important that even if you've been sedentary, you can still start doing an exercise program when you're
mm,
pregnant under the guidance of a healthcare professional. The other piece of that is we now say you can do most of what you were doing before, but now there's no guardrails of how much is that? What does that look
Yeah.
like? What intensity, what volume? So that's where we're trying to fill in those gaps with this book, is to give the guardrails to let people know how much frequency they can do, what duration they can do, how they can self-monitor through using things like a talk test to find out where they are in their exercise and exertion. And then I would say the other thing that has really changed just in women's health in general is, we used to say you can't do planks if you have a diastasis recti, which is where your six pack abs, I'm going to use air quotes, but separate. And now we know that that's just the ab muscles are supposed to separate because we have to make room for baby. And now it's just called an interrecti distance. You don't have to limit activities that you were told maybe before, like planks or heavy lifting. Likewise, prolapse, which is where the organs get extra movement. We used to really limit women and say, you can't lift over 20 pounds. You can't do all the high exertional stuff. And now we're realizing that that also is safe to do. So if someone's seen or been told that, it's a really great opportunity to go back and learn more about your bodies and realize they're not as limited as what we thought in women's health 10, 15 years ago.
Shannon, you talked about the book and it talks about
Mm-hmm.
post-pregnancy as well. So how was your experience? And I mean, I'm sure Jess, with your children as well, like you guys were sort of learning as you went at times, but Shannon, you popped back pretty quick, but you did take your time at the same time.
Yeah, unfortunately, once the pregnancy was over, I had to go back into full training at about 2 months postpartum to try to keep my contract from being reduced or terminated, and to keep my health insurance, because the healthcare policy that we created at USA Track and Field was sort of coming into existence like simultaneous to me returning to sport after my first child. So I was put under pressures to return at a pace that I wouldn't have chosen, but that were required or given the circumstances I was in. So, that return to exercise for me was challenged, but the process of sort of the pregnancy itself, with Jess's support felt like, it felt like I had this kind of sense of what was going on in my body in a way that I needed, and the tools that I could use. For our book, we hope that less women are under that pressure to return to sport, that our generation was under. But we have a few kind of training programs, return to fitness programs in the book in the fourth trimester. One is a 30-day pelvic floor program. Another is a 12-week return to kind of exercise, kind of cardio activity. And another is a strength and fitness 12-week program. The assumption is, because of the framing of the book, the assumption is, women starting it right after having their baby, which means day one is celebrate, rest. But really these programs could be done at any point postpartum. Jess, what's the stat? Like, I think it's important for you to share the length of time it takes postpartum for, some of the organs to come back to, like kind of come back to size, or, just some of these other relevant details, and also the efficacy of these programs done kind of at any point. I think is good for our audience to listen to.
Yeah. And I think the research that's come out will help protect so many of our athletes, because now we know your core muscles get really stretchy, right? To make room for baby. And the collagen actually changes in your core muscles, and it changes to be more adaptive versus that low tension, which is where we transfer power of the core muscles for running and sport. And they found it takes 6 to 9 months for the collagen fibers of our abdominal tone to come back. So even if we're feeling good and we're ready to start hitting our foot on the pavement or going back to some trail running, we know that the core muscles are still not supporting that pelvis the way we want them to. And the pelvic floor is the same. They've done some research that it takes about 4 to 6 months before the pelvic floor muscles are supporting the bottom of that pelvis. So it really does take time. And you're pregnant for 10 months, And I always say it takes about another 10 months to biomechanically go back from those changes. And breastfeeding, obviously, and hormone changes also impact that.
It's wild what pregnancy does to our body,
Isn't
really.
it amazing what our bodies can do?
Yeah, like, I do think it's crazy. I had a friend that would be like, "Oh, excuse me, I'm tired today. I'm, like, building a heart." You know, like, when she was pregnant. It's true. You're like, "Oh, the brain is developing. I need a nap." Like,
She's not wrong.
it's
She's
wild.
not wrong.
She is not wrong. But yet most of us are like, "Oh, I gotta get in a 3-mile run," you know? I how about so both of you are marathoners now, um, and you're also competitive, you know? But when you guys were pregnant, how much did you run? Like, for me, I think it would seem like every trimester I dropped, like, a third of my mileage. So I ran, up until the day of delivery on all of them, and then with Everett, he went 10 days
Mm.
over, and I think it's hilarious. 10 days over and 10 days before the Olympic marathon trials that I did the TV for out in LA. I left that little guy at home for 24 hours and went out there, sat in the back of a motorcycle
Wow.
for 3 hours and talked about the runners. Yeah, but I mean,
Wow.
that's how it seemed like every pregnancy for me, it was like a third less each trimester. What did you guys do? Did you run through most of it? I think, Shannon, you said
I
you
did I
didn't run
trained
through all of
pretty
them, but
normally in the I mean, somewhat reduced volume, but, like, pretty normal, was doing some workouts and such in the first trimester. The second trimester, I would say
uh-huh.
around 5 or 6 months, I started to feel, as the baby shifted from the, Jess, what is it? Uh, into an abdominal organ.
Yeah.
So then I
The uterus goes inside the pelvis into inside the abdomen. So it goes from a pelvic organ to an abdominal
Yeah.
organ,
So around that
That's
time,
which is
it
wild
wild.
started
to
to
think.
Okay.
feel more uncomfortable for me to run. And so I maintained activity. I walked a lot in the third trimester. I chose to stop running, I would say like a month and a half ish prior to delivery, but was active doing,
Mhm.
some of the stability and strengthening exercises. Well, by the end, like more kind of like birth prepping exercises and then walking consistently. San Francisco's hilly, and those hills and stairs are also helpful kind of getting a
Yeah,
baby into position. So doing things like that. How about you, Jess?
very cool.
Yeah, I always say it's different for everybody. And I try and tell patients that too, because if you see my ribs and where my hip bone is, or your kind of iliac crest, there's about an inch of space. I just don't have a very
Oh,
long torso. And so my babies very early were very much like the basketball in the front, and
Uh-huh.
it was uncomfortable. So with my first at 20 weeks, I just felt like the risk versus the benefit didn't make sense anymore. And I loved to get into the pool. It's the only time I went to the
Yeah.
gym back then, was to get in the
Mhm.
pool and feel like I was totally unweighted. I'm like, I don't feel pregnant for a little bit. And then you'd walk up the
Yeah.
stairs, come out of the pool, and you're like, oh, there's all that weight again. Um, so that was my first. My second, we had some pregnancy complications prior, so that they actually
Mhm.
didn't let me run with my second. That being said, I think nowadays they would have allowed that, but back then they said no running. So I was very active in doing yoga, back in the pool again, and then postpartum. This is funny because we write the book about how long you should wait to run. But my first, this was 15 years ago. My first, I went out and I was like, I just have to try and run a week out. And like, can I make it around the track one time? But then slowly loaded after that. So
You did. So you started
yeah,
about a week out with the
yeah,
first.
yeah. It's what, don't do what I practice, do what we preach, right?
I was
So what do you preach? What was that? What is you know, your
Yeah,
guideline to that?
it's no different than if you're coming back from a knee injury. We have protocols for all of those things. And it really depends on how strong you are. Do you have the biomechanical markers? Can you pass a bunch of tests, which we've actually put in the book? And if you can
Okay.
pass most of those tests, you're going to know that you're biomechanically, you're going to be less susceptible. And that's
Mm.
usually right now, research is saying around the 12-week mark is when people can get back to running postpartum. And
Okay.
we may see the
Oh.
shift in
Her face. But I think also
Oh.
too, it's getting back in, like my first run back was 2 months postpartum. I had been walking and moving a lot since the pretty much right after my daughter was born, for my first, I'm referring to that pregnancy. And, but at 2 months postpartum, I had to start training fully again because of my contract. So, um, like, I also made the mistake at that point of, thinking like, "I'll just go and do 20 minutes all at once," and Jess came down to join me for that first run, and at about, like, a few minutes in, she could tell it felt terrible, but very kindly was like, "How you feeling?" I was like, "Horrible." So then she's like,
Ah,
"Why don't we just walk for a minute or 2 and make it into a fartlek, and you can do a mix of walking and running." And I think
yeah.
that because as you described, like, we're so used to our bodies being able to do everything, we don't give them credit for this major act that we've just gone through, creating a human life. Our body has been changing for 10 months. We delivered that child. Um, Really, like, phasing back in at, like, a pace that is the same diligence and kindness you would give your body post-injury, like, doing that same for yourself, whatever that looks like for you, like,
Mm.
Carrie, you ran all the way through delivery, so your body was probably in a different position for running than mine, where I'd been, only walking for 6 weeks and, prior. So,
Yeah.
but I think the way that we approached, our return to activity protocol in the book was, really, like, easing our moms first into walking and then, increasing that distance and then introducing running where it's these run walk combinations with the hopes that by
Mm.
12 weeks postpartum, you're able to run, a longer stretch. And our book was designed for, you know, it was informed by Olympic athletes, but it was designed for kind of like any and every active mom out there who's
Anyone.
trying to have the same kind of like information and care that that they would hope for, that they would
Yeah.
want.
I really like that because let's face it, there are a lot of active people now. It's not like it was, 30 years ago, 25 years ago where people were I mean there's a lot like you even look at the numbers at the
Yeah.
marathons and half marathons, it is growing, growing,
Yeah.
growing. So you're going to have mamas out
Yeah.
there that are maybe just not as informed and they're just going to do whatever. I took about a month with each of my children and it took me about a month for me to not see physical signs of labor.
Mhm.
Like I was still bleeding. I was, still had issues like that, but I walked pretty early on. And like you said, I think Shannon, like for me, I was able to run, although I really did back off quite a
Mhm.
bit. I love a 3 mile run and I still do, but that just for me, when I was able to still do that as I was pregnant, it filled my
Right.
soul and my body felt good with it. So I was
Mm.
lucky that way. But I did lift very hard. So I probably was doing some of the things that you all recommend without really
Mhm.
knowing that I was doing something for myself. Um, I thought it would be fun though, just to chat a little bit about some of the funny things that we all went through during pregnancy or even postpartum. So did anything funny?
Yeah, I was gonna say I brought a what was it, like a air diffuser or something, which actually I was really happy about because it made the room smell lovely as opposed to smelling like a hospital.
Oh,
No
hospital.
shade on hospitals, but they have a very hospital
Yeah,
smell, and I wanted something a little bit more like
sterile. They're very
cozy.
sterile.
Um, so, but yeah, I mean, I feel like any first time parent has all kinds of things that they get that in retrospect were not necessary, like, but just seemed essential at the time.
Oh, yeah, I said I felt like that was the nesting phase. It was like you had to have the nursery all done, you have to have all the clothes washed, you have to have the crib ready, and I'm like, I didn't use the nursery for like the first 16 weeks. I mean, our kid was sleeping in our bedroom. I was like, who needed to buy all this stuff? Like, I could have had that
That's
room
so
totally not ready. So I think a lot of it was more all the products you
yeah.
need, and
Yeah.
you don't need a product for every single thing.
No. And they do say take all of the things, not you don't have to steal it, but take all the things from the hospital, right? I
I
mean,
had a
even
I
the
had a sanitary pad for, like, at least 7 years underneath my sink, and I was like, "Why is this still down here?"
can you believe how big they are? Okay, any guy
I mean,
listening
it's
right
never
now, I
gonna
am
be
so sorry. We are giving you all kinds of stuff, but it was like that thing I could have wrapped around my belly. I mean, it was like, it wasn't even 12 inches. It was 24 inches long. It went from my boobs to the back of my back.
Yeah, they could definitely use some innovation when it comes to those products for our moms. Like, clearly, whoever designed them never used one.
Exactly. And
That'll be
also, I have,
next.
yeah, I have another invention that I was going to run past you guys. I wanted to make the belly bra
Oh.
when I was pregnant. So, like, I think of all the things that we could use. And when I was running, my belly, I had a big belly, which obviously most of us do, right? So, I was thinking I wore Spanx.
Uh-huh. Those bags.
I wore the ones that came, yeah, I wore the ones that came underneath your chest and then they were shorts. And it felt so good to run that way. But I always thought of, why don't we do something that's like, the when you're a cyclist and you wear the
Uh-huh.
bibs, why don't we do something where almost like, what was that funny guy's name? The
Oh, Borat?
Borat?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, Borat. Like
Or
that.
Bruno, or one of the two.
But
Maybe
like,
Bruno. I don't know.
no,
Yeah.
Borat.
Borat.
Borat, the green. But like something like that that pulls you up from under your carriage all the way
Mhm.
up.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah,
you agree or no?
I definitely can see the innovation because your chest is a lot heavier, right? And who wants to double up on your sports bra? Because then it gets so tight underneath. You're like, I can't breathe. So we have
Yes.
something that would support both systems. You can get away with not having that second sports bra around the ribs.
Yeah, and also like though, I mean from underneath all the way up.
I like that you got
Like a swimsuit.
the
Yes. If you're not watching this, people, if you're
Like
just
we're
listening to us, you gotta go back and watch our video on YouTube.
I'd like you to
But
design a prototype.
I I mean, my husband and I were getting ready to, because I'm like, we need this. We need something to pull that belly on up and hold it up there.
I love it.
Because those Spanx weren't so cute. They were nude. They were not like a colored Spank back then. And it just went to underneath. And then I did have to double up on the sports bra. So if I got just a one big unit, I would have been good.
Well, I think I would say in my observation, there is a lot of room for innovation and improvement on the products for
Yeah.
our mothers. And given, to your point earlier, the massive participation in sports like running globally, and
Yeah.
given that the majority of those participants are women and the majority of those women are in childbearing ages, all the businesses
Yeah.
should actually care about this topic and this customer because it is the majority of the customer that's out there. So,
Yeah, I think so. And it just makes for a healthier, community and all of us around. And the men will like it a lot more, or your partners or whoever you're with will love you more because you're happier and able to move. And the baby will be happy too.
Yeah.
One thing that Jess and I were talking about is, we have a lot on our plates when this is our first child or our third child or eighth child or whatever, but when you're pregnant, there's a lot going on and emotionally you're all over the place too. But you can't necessarily just stop all of your work and, even that 30 minutes a day that you want to go out and get a little workout in, go on the elliptical, go in the pool. But the strength piece is important. So Jess and I were talking about, how do we manage all of that? Like, what is the most important thing to do? Is it cardio? Is it strength? Is it cut back on cardio so you have time for strength? But how do we manage that, Jess?
I think number one, exercise wise, just doing something, right? And I'm going to kind of nerd out on you on research, but if I give someone 3 exercises, they'll do them 72% of the time. If I give them
Yeah.
4 exercises, they'll do them 40% of the time. So it's just taking little bits of like, okay, I've got 5 minutes, do 3 exercises. And all those little bricks that we lay are the consistency that are going to get us back doing bigger, longer workouts, bigger routines. And that's where we actually in the book designed it to just have bite size. Shannon was such a good proponent of that. I'd want to add all these exercises in. And she's like, nope, Jess, I tried these
Yeah.
exercises. There's going to be too many on one day. Can we split it up into two? Because we wanted it to be really bite size, and that can get the strength training. That can be squats with baby. That can be lunges with baby. It can just be in our regular daily activities to really get some of those movements in.
I love that. Bite size. Shannon, you're onto it.
Well, I think for me, I am exactly what you described now. I drop my kids off at school. So our school drop off is like 7:50 in the morning. And so I've got from then until about 9 a.m. where I can try to squeeze something in. And so it's important for me
Yeah.
I do love the cardio. Getting that 30 to 40-minute run gives me my chance to kind of clear my head and calm my nervous system. And then I'll, in my trunk of my car, have my yoga mat, have a TheraBand, a medicine ball, or like a little car kit of things to use. Cause I know that if I get in the car and go home, I'm a lot less likely to do any sort of extra exercise, even if I want to, because as soon as you walk in the door, there's something. If your baby's a newborn, they'll want to nurse or eat, or they'll want your attention. If your, baby's older, you've probably got work to do. So for me, a lot of it is just having those bite-sized pieces, stacking it in a way that I can just knock it out and then move on to whatever comes next. And I think for all of our moms and dads out there, understanding both the nature of their day and how they operate. If I don't get my exercise done in the first thing in the morning, I'm probably not going to do it, or I'm less likely to do it. But I know other people who need that afternoon break to just go hop out the door and go for a run, but scheduling it in some way, shape, or form. And I have my run like blocked an hour on my calendar. Sometimes it moves around, sometimes I cancel it, but I block that in because it deserves that. Like it's great and important and essential for your physical and mental health to move. And if we can just even accept that first and foremost, then we can give ourselves the space to make time for it, and we'll be better parents and better workers and everything as a result.
And if you can do it in community, I mean, that's really what has elevated my running in the last 5 years is you have a friend group that you can go with. They are there, they keep your accountability. You're killing two birds with one stone, which I feel like, as parents, it gets harder to find time to be with your friends and, go out for coffee or go sit and have a nice dinner, but you can be exercising and connecting at the same time. And then it becomes, filling more than just your physical cup. It becomes your social network and physical at the same time.
Oh, it's so true. And all the women at my group called Moms on the Run are going to love it. So the book comes out in February, but you can pre-order it now. You could get it for a Christmas present. You could get it for, Shannon and I were saying that Valentine's Day present. So there's all kinds of presents, or you could just get it for yourself. But how excited are you guys for February to come around and get this thing out and into hands of people?
It feel like it's been forever. We just actually got our physical copy on Friday. So I have slept with this thing. I have been cooking with it. I have literally tried to not put it down just because it's been so amazing to finally hold and see the real physical book. But we're really excited for it just to help so many moms.
Yeah. I think that's the big thing is you're going to help people with it. And that is pretty cool.
Right. I think I want to make sure we share this because we mentioned, the nervous stepmother or the overprotective husband. And I know that there's a lot of women out there who probably get pushback from their communities in one way, shape, or form about being active. But just for those listening, I want to share the reasons why it's not just good for mom, but it's also good for baby to be active. So for moms, it reduces your chance of gestational diabetes. It enhances your ability to handle the physical demands of labor. It reduces the likelihood of needing a cesarean delivery. It improves psychological well-being. A bunch of other things for babies, being active as a mom, which is like 150 minutes a week, about a little over 20 minutes a day of moderate intensity activity for your baby, it will improve their placental growth, volume, and function. It'll help regulate their weight. It will improve your baby's muscle tone. It will increase the likelihood of a vaginal delivery, which is beneficial for kind of bacterial exposure. It can promote a shorter labor, and it can improve your baby's position for birth. So if you are someone who has a lot of kind of gets questions about why you should be active as a mom, we felt it was really important to help like increase people's awareness of the fact that it is not a selfish thing to be active as a mother. It's actually better for the mom and for the baby. So to your question about the book and the excitement, I think for me, so much of this is just creating the tool that I wish I had, and sharing it with this incredible running community. I love running because of the community of people that are in it. And it makes me really excited to create something that I think will add value and help and change lives for the better.
I'm so proud of you too. This is going to be amazing. I can't wait to read it. I'm not having any more babies. Sorry, I'm too old. Well, I should say that there's some ladies my age that are still having babies, and I love it. But this lady is that chapter's closed. But yeah, this is going to be really fun, and I'm going to recommend the book as soon as I get my hands on it. And congratulations. Before I let you guys go, though, I do have to do some rapid fire. So would you rather feel the fatigue of early pregnancy or the fatigue of having lack of sleep after baby?
Probably the lack of sleep
So
after, because I loved those moments like in the middle of the night where like my baby was just laying on my chest. I'd be binge watching some terrible TV show, and just like that little human in your arms is so incredible.
I'm the total opposite. I would say I'd rather have the fatigue during pregnancy. I'll never forget, I was like 15 months postpartum, and my second child finally slept through the night the first time. And I was like, this is what normal feels like. I mean, I would be talking to patients and I'd be saying your knee, but I was actually talking about their elbow. I mean, the cognitive deficits were just wild. I was like, I'm so excited to be sleeping again because I love my sleep.
Yes.
Oh, I do too. But I do miss that of like, oh my goodness, I'm so exhausted. I have to take a quick nap, and it'd be like 3 hours later. And it was because I was pregnant. That was so fun too. But anyways, okay. So would you rather clean up a blowout or spit up?
Oh, probably spit up. It's a lot less stinky. I don't know. I didn't have much spit up, so I guess I'll choose.
You need your
I
Carmex.
Okay. I'm going to go the exact opposite again. I'd rather, but also as a pelvic floor therapist, right? We have to like handle all kinds of things. And my first child spit up so much, there were white marks everywhere on our carpet. So it's much harder to clean up than you think. So I'd rather do the diaper. That's just way faster.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I think I agree. I don't know. I spit up was funny. Like you'd find it like, I swear, like a year later, I'd wear a sweater that I had more, and I'd be like, there was spit up on this still. Anyways, okay. Would you rather have big boobs or take the shrinkage after nursing?
As a runner, the shrinkage, because it's just a lot more comfortable.
I'm going to fully go shrinkage because, you know, as a marathoner, I use the Tracksmith sports bra, and that's where I put all my gels. So I need the room for my gels.
Although I could not believe a week after having a baby what I looked like. They were up to my chin. Like
this
there
is a
wasn't
whole
even
world.
cleavage. Like you couldn't even there was nothing you couldn't even floss in between there. It was so, I couldn't believe it. Could you guys believe it?
It was wild. It was a wild ride.
It was nice for a while while it lasted.
Yeah, I don't know if it was nice for me. Anywho, back to G-rated. Would you rather do early morning runs or afternoon runs while the baby napped? Would you rather get up before everyone was up and just like go and get it done with, or wait until the baby was sleeping and then go?
Oh, that's hard because I've never been a roll out of bed kind of person. I feel like I usually take like an hour and a half before my everything's functioning. But it's hard to get
Okay.
out of the house later in the day. I feel like if I probably while the baby's napping, if I actually got out the door would be the better scenario for my body movement.
Okay.
Mine isn't by choice. I'd probably like to get up and, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning do it. But with work and treating patients and
Yeah.
at the clinic, it's full game once I go to work and you don't know what time you're coming home. So finding the amazing group of people that I have, and they all run at 5:30 or 5:15 in the morning. And
Mhm.
while that's been really, really early, that has been just the group and community that we're talking about, and what's
Yeah.
gets me out, and I get my run in, and it's that consistency that builds you back to doing great things in the sport, even later in life.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you, Jess. I like to get up. Okay. Last one. Have 10 kids or run 130-mile weeks. Would you rather have 10 of them, or just you got to run 130-mile weeks forever?
I mean,
I know this is a hard one. This is why we're ending on
yeah.
it.
I feel like it's hard enough for my OCD brain to handle 2 kids in the house and, like, trying to organize all the things. So,
Yeah.
probably I'd rather do 130-mile weeks, assuming that I could, like, have enough time in my days to make room for that mileage. So, yes.
I was sitting here thinking, well, at some point the kids start taking care of them each other. So maybe that would be an option. And you're talking to somebody who runs, my mileage is always 30 to 50, even when marathon training. So,
Me too.
um,
Me too.
but I guess I'd like to try probably the 130 miles a week because 10 kids seems really
Yeah.
hard.
I know. We
Both
were
in
having this
delivery,
discussion.
both
Oh,
in
the
pregnancy,
delivery.
delivery, and the aftercare.
Yeah, that's a lot in life. But also they were saying after a certain point, then the 10 kids just start taking care of each other. So I don't know. I'm stumped on that one, but I think 130-mile weeks for me
Yeah.
too. They're expensive, those kids. I don't want to work for the rest of my life.
Totally.
So,
Right.
well, thanks so much, you guys. And thanks for kind of going off the rails with me on this one. We had some fun, but that's what moms do when it was like, happy hour here for me. So we just had some fun.
Thank you for talking with
I hope
us,
everyone
Carrie.
goes out and gets the
Yeah.
book, everybody. And you guys are giving a lot of your time and effort. And so congratulations again. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me today on C Tolle Run. My guests were Shannon Rowbury and Jessica Dorrington. You can find them on social media at Shannon Rowbury, Jessica.w.Dorrington, and 42mom. That's the number 4, TWO mom. Big shout out to Run Dot for supporting the show, and to Andrew Harley, who's the producer of the Try Dot, Run Dot, and C Tolle Run podcasts. Also, if you're a fan of this pod, we would love to ask you to leave a rating and review in iTunes. All you have to do is visit ctollerun.com/review, and it'll bring you right to our show's page. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram at C Tolle Run and at Carrie_Tullifson. You can also check us out by visiting our website, ctollerun.com. Thanks so much for joining us today. And don't forget to get after it.